Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Gaza-bound activists intercepted. Now they're being deported before their aid even lands in Gaza. Trump declares armed conflict with drug cartels. What does that mean for American borders? Day 3 of the shutdown. Agencies stall and Trump's camp warns of mass layoffs. ICE storms a Chicago building and zip ties children in a very brutal overnight raid. A U.S. citizen sues ICE after being wrongfully arrested twice. How does that even happen? And I just want to let you guys know, thank God it's Friday. The Trump administration sent a chilling message to academia. 9 major universities have been asked to subscribe to a new compact for academic excellence. So, in other words, they want them to basically adopt Trump's ideological priorities in exchange for favorable access to federal funding. Now, some schools would need to make changes in areas like admissions, faculty hiring, international student caps, gender policies, and free speech programs. And a lot of the critics say that this is not an incentive, but a threat, because if you reject it, you lose funding. This is more than just politics. It's pressure on the very soul of education. And I'm going to point out some key details here for you guys, and we're going to blow up some things. So right here, ladies and gentlemen, it states that including substantial and meaningful federal grants and increased overhead payments were feasible. They call it the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, and it asks universities to accept the government's definition of gender and apply it to campus bathrooms, locker rooms, and women's sports teams. It asks colleges to stop considering race, gender, and a wide range of student demographics in the admission process, and to require undergraduate applicants to take the SAT or ACT. I wonder if you guys are for or against this. And now, this is my own conjecture and my opinion. Should they consider race and gender when it comes to admission programs and or admission application? Absolutely not. Yep, if you're going to turn this into a merit-based system, it should be predicated upon your test scores, not your race, not your demographic, what religion. Oh, well, this is a Catholic-led school. BYU, that is a more Mormon type of school. No, it should be based upon the score, okay, that you scored on your SAT and ACT. As a matter of fact, my family and I just had this conversation last night about who, my wife and myself, what was our our SAT scores, because I was on the East Coast. Now, my SAT score, I think, was around 1,200, 1,250, which is actually average for, I think, the top 30% of Americans. But when you start getting to 14 and 1500s, those are the people who get those scholarships to Ivy League school. I went to a school where, you had to at least have a B average, okay, and I think at least 1100 on your SAT scores. But nonetheless, this is more merit based, okay, because they're really trying to eradicate anything that has to do with affirmative action in DEI. And that shouldn't be in academia at all, okay? Because again, it should be based upon your test scores. Now, let's dive a little bit further inside the text here. These universities, 9 universities that President Trump and the Trump administration have picked, has been Vanderbilt, the University of Pennsylvania, Dartmouth College, University of South California, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is also known as MIT, the University of Texas, the University of Arizona, Brown University, which is kind of considered an Ivy League school, and the University of Virginia. It was not clear how these schools were selected or why. And from my recollection, none of these schools are HBCUs, by the way. So just kind of, let me calm down here. Nope, we're not going to do that. I thought I'd point out some other key factors, but there it is, ladies and gentlemen, when it pertains to these so-called non-test pilot schools that the Trump administration want to give incentives and extra funding to if they adhere to what their definitions of race and what their definition of gender is, and totally eradicate that from the application process. We'll see how this whole merit system pans out And if anything comes arise or changes, I'll make sure to keep you guys abreast of the new updates regarding that particular story. Okay. So activists aboard flotilla ships attempted to reach Gaza for humanitarian purposes are now being intercepted and deported, and their mission is being met not with welcome, but with force from the IDF. And the U.S. and Israel are coordinating to block passage and send participants back to where they came from. So again, United States of America is complicit with Israel and stopping aid flowing into Gaza. Now, this move raises serious questions. It basically should, be for everyone to a certain degree. When does security become suppression? Because this is about security. But do you believe that those resources, that aid that Greta Thunberg and the grandson of Nelson Mandela and several other European lawmakers, do you believe that aid will actually reach Gaza and those Palestinians who are in dire need of it? And whose voices are being silenced in the name of order? That is the question that I have here. Okay, that is the question that I have. It says they here last reported positions. And don't forget, this was over 40 vessels that were stopped in rendering aid. And they were being shot with water guns from the IDF. Again, non-lethal deterrence, so to speak, but 40 vessels full of aid being hindered and stopped. You could literally just inspect it to see if there's any, ammunition, any arms, any guns, anything that could be harmful to Israelis or the IDF. And then if not, then allow them to hand out the aid that a lot of these Palestinians absolutely need. But nope. They have confiscated the aid, and now those supporters, those humanitarians, will be deported back to their countries. So I just want to kind of let you guys know what's going on in reference to that. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware that Trump has declared that the U.S. is now in armed conflict with drug cartels. And that is a war footing, not a policy debate, except surges of military rhetoric, cross-border operations, and hardened enforcement. But does this escalate the violence or does it solve it? And will civil liberties, immigrant communities, and border regions bear this particular fallout? Because he's almost calling it an act of war, and we know that Congress are the only ones can act of war. But we'll see what this news correspondent enlighten us about this.
Conflict with the drug cartels that the administration has designated as terrorist organizations. In a memo obtained by News Nation, shared with members of Congress by Pentagon officials, it says the U.S. has now reached a critical point where we must use force in self-defense and defense of others against the ongoing attacks by these designated terrorists. And this follows the 3 recent deadly strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean. The memo says the alleged smugglers are, quote, unlawful combatants, and that the Pentagon was legally authorized to strike the boat in the Caribbean last month. This also lays the groundwork for potential more strikes even within Venezuela. Here's more from the president this week.
If you try to poison our people, we will blow you out of existence, because that's the only language they really understand. That's why you don't see any more boats on the ocean. You don't see any boats. Around Venezuela, there's nothing.
There's still questions.
Yeah, I think once we get inside this particular story, there's just a couple of questions that I have regarding this. And I'm going to show you here very quickly, because in anything, we need evidence, we need proof that these ships were actually transporting drugs into America and not possibly just killing innocent people who are just using the waterways in that particular region. But let's get into this. It states here that Trump has declared the United States is now at war with drug cartels deemed by the White House as terrorist groups, giving legal rationale to U.S. military strikes on boats in the Caribbean Sea last month. Of course, now we know that Congress is the only one that can say that we are at war with another group of people, organization, and or terrorist groups. It states that the United States have now reached a critical point where we must use force in self-defense and defense of others against the ongoing attacks by these designated terrorist organizations. Trump has claimed we're carrying drugs bound for the United States of America. Those are the claims that the Trump administration is making. The attack killed all 17 people aboard the vessel. At least 2 of them originated from Venezuela, with the administration insisting that they were lawful despite no public proof that the boats contained drugs. Trump must seek war powers authority from Congress before conducting such operations. The notice did not name any of the cartels. Listen to this. We're at war with this terrorist group. We're at war with these terrorist groups. And at least 2 of the people on board supposedly were Venezuelan, but all 17 were killed. And there's been no public proof that these boats were carrying drugs. I mean, did we get any residue? Did we have any packaging? Did we test some of the waters where it exploded to see not only did we have, the explosion residue, but cocaine or meth or any sort of proof that this ship was actually transporting illegal paraphernalia, illegal drugs into America? And it stated that it did not name any of the cartels as these terrorist organizations to be targeted. And the Pentagon has now provided a list of the designated organizations that are part of this effort. Who are we talking about? Are we talking about all the cartels? Some of you would say that absolutely. Okay, who are those cartels? Give me the cartels out of Mexico. Give me the cartels out of Venezuela. Give me the cartels out of Salvador. Give me all the cartels that America is, quote unquote, at this war conflict. Let the American people know that you're using American taxpayer dollars by the way of our military in destroying all these vessels in and around the waters of Venezuela, that you actually have proof that these people that you are killing and unaliving are in fact cartel members, and that they're trying to secretly transport illegal goods inside of America. And believe me, most Americans would not have a problem. But we really have to keep a close eye on government, not this government, not the past government, not the next government, that will all government. Because again, I keep telling people, whether it be the Democrats or Republicans, they operate the same, they just do it differently. Because as people were saying that Obama was the deport-in-chief, he was the chief of deportations, and no one really knew. They didn't really focus, the Democrats, the liberals, all these news media outlets did not focus on President Obama deporting all of these people back to their country. But people are now getting mad at President Trump of deporting people. No, that's why I state that majority of Foundation Black Americans, we are not for illegal immigration. And we may be for legal immigration, but we are not for mass legal immigration. Okay? Because again, that not subsidized, but that subjugates us in a particular manner. I won't get into that because I covered that many times. But nonetheless, the people that he's just killing, I wonder, where's the proof? We can't keep doing things in this sort of authoritarian manner just because, President Trump said they was carrying drugs, so we got to believe there was carrying drugs. Do not believe everything you hear, and do not believe everything you see, because government for a long time, ladies and gentlemen, that's why if someone could ever pull up a video of me saying that I am a Democrat, that I am a Republican, please let me know. The most things you probably heard at one point in time, maybe about 10 years, I think the earliest is 6 years ago, that I say that I was an independent. Because I didn't choose the lesser of two evil. I was just standing in the middle, looking at the Republicans, looking at the Democrats. The most things I said that can be closely related to any political party say that in some regards, I do have a conservative mindset, but not the conservative that you guys look at the Republicans. No, we're talking about traditionalism to a certain degree when it comes to foundational Black Americans and having a wife and a husband and children, do for self, work hard, make good money, live the American dream. That's pretty much it. That's my conservatism. There it is, in a very small package. But this unaliving people because they're in a boat that we deem that have drugs, think about all the carnage and chaos that every time you thought something didn't align in the way you thought it was, like, you know what? I think those Black guys over there are selling drugs. And then you just go over there and shoot the whole corner up, and it was actually handing out books. They were actually handing out free food for people who are unhoused and unsheltered. Think about that. Every time you just thought people were doing wrong, you just unalived them just because you thought about it. That's what I get from this administration in some regards. Okay? This is what I received. Now, this is day 3 of the federal funding standoff, and the White House is already hinting at massive layoffs. Agencies are frozen, workers are anxious. The shutdown isn't abstract. This is about families and paycheck and services. And Trump is using the impasses as leverage, but the leverage is coming from suffering. I just want you guys to listen to this as well.
Meeting between President Trump and the architect of his plans to shrink the federal government, Russ Vought. Trump yesterday writing Vought would now recommend which, quote, Democrat agencies to cut, adding, quote, I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted.
As for those possible layoffs, the numbers could be staggering.
Look, it's likely going to be in the thousands.
A stark reality for Jenna Horton, a researcher at the National Institutes of Health, who's currently furloughed and can only check her email to see if she's been laid off.
We're not allowed to work, which is tough because most of us are really passionate about what we do.
Meanwhile, coast to coast, the early impacts of the shutdown are already being felt, with federal employees, including members of the military, working without pay. A food bank near Fort Leavenworth in Kansas prepping for an influx of need.
That's panic on real military families.
As the anxiety ramps up, Congress remains at a standstill. Republicans and Democrats are no closer to a breakthrough. The Senate GOP leader claiming there is nothing to negotiate.
As soon as they release the hostage, then we can talk about those other issues.
But Democrats like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez argue the need is now, and Republicans should come to the table.
Let's make sure that people's healthcare premiums are protected. Let's end this shutdown. Let's get people fed, and let's get these paychecks back flowing.
The two sides still very much stuck in their positions with no signs of a breakthrough.
I just wonder the many Americans that's been affected by this breakdown by both the Democrats and the Republicans. Are you guys still warring against each other? Are the Democrats who say that they're Democrats, I'm talking about everyday citizens, are you guys still warring like, oh, it's those Republicans, they won't allow the amount of billions of dollars of healthcare to help the millions of Americans who are going to need this? All the Republicans, those people you state, regular citizens who are Republican, always say those Democrats want to give illegal immigrants healthcare money. But let me give you guys the real here. Okay, I really just love dealing with the truth because the truth cannot be fabricated. Well, at least not in this administration, I will hopefully. But it states here that Obamacare support, the majority of President Donald Trump supporters back tax subsidies for the Affordable Care Act plan. A new poll conducted in days before the shutdown has found an extension of the Obamacare subsidies, which expire at year's end. It's a key sticking point for Democrats in the government shutdown fight. So now we have Trump supporters who actually support Obamacare. Whatever happened to that? Young Trump voters detail frustration with him on the economy and immigration and new focus groups. So there are some people who are in the Trump support camp that's probably a little different than MAGA, again, Making America Great Again group. And that's what they're kind of calling them and grouping them in. That's kind of going against the president. They're like, hey, we don't agree with this. But let's come down here just a little bit here because I want to point out something. A majority of Trump supporters back extending Obamacare subsidy poll found. Whatever happened that they were going to revoke and eradicate Obamacare. But a lot of the Trump supporters are stating that no, Obamacare was actually a good thing. So I guess Obama did do one good thing good. And that's coming from me too. I said that Obamacare was actually a good thing. I don't know what else Obama did, but that's probably one of the things that he did good. And some people say, hey, it was good. Some people say it was bad. I digress. It states that more than 22 million people receive the subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year unless Congress extends them. Losing the subsidies could mean that average out-of-pocket premium payments could double in 2026 from $888 a year to $1,904, an early KFF analysis found. The new survey found that 59% of Republicans and 57 of them that's part of the Make America Great Again supporters favor extending the enhanced subsidies. Wow. So I guess people got off that Trojan horse, kept saying Obamacare, because people really didn't like Obama if you really like Trump. But when you say Affordable Health Care Act, they say, oh, that's better than Obamacare. There was a lot of these liberal TV shows that went out to the public say, hey, what do you think of Obamacare? Oh, it's bad for America. What do you think about the Affordable Health Care Act? Oh, that's actually good. It's the same thing. The Affordable Health Care Act is the government name, and Obamacare is a politicized social media name that the Trump administration and Republicans gave it to demonize the healthcare plan that actually is helping millions of Americans. This is why you should not trust any side of the government and lay on truth. Because I would tell you, sometimes they put laws and legislations and executive orders that they sign into law are actually good for Americans. And sometimes they're just doing things for their billion-dollar business friends on both sides, of Republicans and the Democrats. Look at a lot of the Democrats that are in office, millionaires. How you are a public servant and you're making $125,000 a year. You've been in Congress, you've been in the Senate for 3 years, and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. But oh, that's right. You get all the IPO information before stocks are released, and you put down, let's say $5,000, and then soon as that stock price hits, it goes up. Let's say, for instance, stock price in the IPO was $25, but you bought it before the IPO released at $10, and when it was released, you doubled your money. And then right before the stock started to tick down, according to the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, what are indicators, or people may call them candlesticks, indicators that let you know how that stock is absolutely trending, you then pull your money out. Man, these politicians on both sides, I'm trying to tell you, are filthy rich, and they've been playing the American people for so long. And again, you should just rely on the truth. That doesn't mean that all government is bad, but I would tell you that all government is evil. And every now and again, they do some good things. Whether it be the Trump administration, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, the Reagan administration, the Carter administration, does not matter, ladies and gentlemen. It does not matter absolutely at all. Okay? Now, in Chicago, during the night, SWAT-style raid left families traumatized because ICE agent repelled in. I should know I used to repel in the Army. They was repelling from helicopters. They stormed the apartments, and worst of all, they zip-tied children. U.S. citizen children were dragged from beds, bodies trembling. Some of them were even naked, and their rights ignored. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about witnesses that are speaking of helicopters, flashbangs, and total chaos in their apartment building. And the local leaders decried that the operations as terror. This is state power unhinged, and the powerless paid the price. Let's get into this particular story, because this is lunacy, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to these ICE raids on the American people. Not everybody who is Latino, not everybody who has dark color, copper colored skin, not every Asian person, not every Eastern European in this country is an illegal immigrant. They state here again that agents repelled in from helicopters, broke down doors, used flashbangs, tore tenants from their units, and detained several people. Ladies and gentlemen, I did 20 years in the military. This sounds like military training. This sounds like a military invasion that they were incurring on these people. It states including numerous of U.S. citizens. For hours, people leaving the building ravaged, according to multiple reports. Now, Fisher, one of the witnesses, said she was handcuffed and questioned before being released at around 3 a.m. The officer, she noted, just treated us like we were nothing, and it was scary because I had never had a gun in my face. I want you guys to really think about that. Before they ask you any question, they handcuff you and you are a U.S. citizen. Yeah, could there possibly be some illegal immigrants inside the building? Yeah, but why aren't you going door to door and knocking? Now, granted, there's enough federal agents if you're going to raid an apartment building to have them all lined against throughout the hallway. Then have some people at the back and have some people in the front in case people try to escape. But as they're going door to door and you're searching through these apartments for these so-called illegal immigrants, can you allow the American citizens to give them proper identification, their real ID, their passport, to show that they're American citizens so you do not violate their rights? You have to put yourself in these people's situation. I'm thinking about it. It's in the middle of the night. It's 2:30 a.m. It's 3 a.m. in the morning, and I'm getting a knock on the door. I open up the door. Boom, ICE agent. They come in and like, whoa, what's going on? Get on your knees. I get on my knees. They handcuff me. Like, what's going on? What crime have I committed? What crime have I committed? They're violating your civil rights. They're violating your constitutional rights. They're violating your state rights. Where's your arrest warrant? Where's your search and seizure warrant? What judge signed off on this? What in the hell is going on? How can you violate American citizens' privacy without a search warrant? How can you just literally detain everybody in an apartment building without proper identification? Where's your evidence? Where are your surveillance? Where are your monitoring? What police work have you done just to detain an entire apartment building? I want you guys to put yourself in the situation because this is 1,000% wrong. This is 1,000% wrong. Another ABC interviewee ducked upon hearing flashbangs that was detonating and when then distressed by the sight of children detained. Wow, they put children in zip ties and then they zip tied the children to each other. That's all I kept asking. What is the morality in this? Where's the human? One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, F them kids. Now, again, we don't know if that is true. That's hearsay. But nonetheless, I'm inclined to believe that is true. Okay, yeah. I'm not being impartial. I'm leaning to one side. He said, F those kids. It stated that heartbreaking to see kids coming out butt naked and taken from their mothers. Another witness says that we're being invaded by our own military. Wow. These people were not even safe in their own home. You could just simply knock on a door. How many people live there? I mean, that's still violating to a certain degree. Oh, it's 3 people who live here. Okay, we're going to need everybody's real ID and or passport. And because we have a war on illegal immigrants, we're going to comb through to make sure no one's hiding under the bed. You can watch us. We're not going to take any of your belongings, but they would still need a search warrant. We already lived in a police country, but now we're living in a police state. That's what's going on right here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, a U.S.-born citizen has filed suit after being arrested, not once, but twice, by immigration agents despite holding citizenship. And this isn't bureaucratic error. This is evidence that unchecked power can target even those who should be protected the most. What safeguards remain when the identity is weaponized, when the state fails to distinguish citizens from non-citizens? Justice loses its meaning. And that is what we're referring to right here this day, ladies and gentlemen. I want you guys to listen in on this. This is ridiculous.
Just once, but twice by ICE agents. Leonardo Garcia Venegas says that both incidents happened while he was working at a construction site earlier this year, and that both happened purely because he's Latino. Garcia Venegas is an American citizen born to parents who are Mexican nationals. His lawsuit claims that both times he told the officers he was a citizen and showed them his real ID. As you know, the real ID is the identification card that's issued only to citizens and lawful residents, but the officers still wouldn't let him go, according to his lawyer. The Department of Homeland Security is still disputing his account of why he was detained. His attorney, Jaba Situashvili, who's representing Garcia Venegas in his federal lawsuit, joins.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have your real ID, you have all your proper identification. He is a U.S. citizen, and they still detain him. Did they detain him because he was Latino? Absolutely. Because you fit the bill. Yeah, Garcia, you fit the bill. How did I fit the bill, Blacklogic? Well, you first a Latino, and then secondly, you was on a construction site. You must be illegal. You must be illegal because not once but twice. Because after the first time. And then again, these ICE agents, these federal troops, they really need to do due diligence, by the way. Whether you're going to create a list or you're going to simply be humane. You're actually going to protect and serve. Excuse me, sir, can you show us your real ID? Can you show us a blueprint? Because again, we have this war on mass deportation of getting illegal immigrants out of our country. We're not stating that you are illegal immigrant, but we do need to see some form of identification. Yes, sir. Here's my real ID. Okay, sir. Have a great day. That's how easy they is. You see how they bum rushed him? Like before he can even get a chance. Like this, ladies and gentlemen, can we see this one more time? Let's look at this.
So an Alabama man is suing the federal government.
We're going to do this without audio this time, okay? I just want you guys to see the video. I want you guys to look at this very quick. Look how it is swoop in. Look at this. And he's probably telling him, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen. I can give you my ID. Oh, we don't care about no damn ID. That's what they were telling him. We don't care about no ID. This is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. There's a proper way to go about doing this. Am I for illegal immigration? Absolutely not. If you're going to approach someone, if you're going to identify them, as we used to say, walking while Black, walking while Latino, this is what this is about. They didn't even say, show me your freedom papers. They didn't even say, show me your real ID. They just go ahead and let's detain him. He's Latino working on a construction site. He must be guilty. Is a Black man walking down the street? He committed a crime. How you know that? We just know he committed a crime. How is that? Because 1 out of 3 Black men will go to jail. Not maybe. They will go to jail or be in some form of law enforcement. Like, would it be jail, prison? They would be in some sort of law enforcement camp, detention. 1 out of 3. So yeah, he did something. He robbed somebody. He killed somebody. He stole something. He jaywalked. He committed a crime. Let's just lock him up. That's what's going on right now, ladies and gentlemen. That is what's going on right now. And the only thing I had to say, considering the news that I've been covering this entire week, the only thing I can say is thank God it's Friday.